Well, howdy there. I'm Bree, and welcome back to the Rogue MFA's YouTube channel. So I posted a new article on Substack today, but I also wanted to make a video about it because I thought it might be a nice companion. Speaking of companions, today, and really all month, we're talking about character. So today we are going to be talking about a handful of unique character prompts that are going to get you to the core of who your person is. But if you want a complete look at a character interview that I think is going to be super helpful to you, whether you use it all or just pick and choose the stuff that's relevant to you and your characters, you can head over to Substack because we have an entire workbook, fillable, that is available to our paid subscribers. So in addition to getting the article version of this video, you can also get yourself even more prompts that'll make your people even more interesting. But for today, I'm just going to walk you through 7 of my favorite character prompts that maybe will spark something in you. So obviously a lot of the physical description stuff is pretty standard. Hair, color, eye color, stuff like that. But sometimes I think we forget that people are more than just a series of very vague descriptions that are useful, but probably not telling us the whole story. So the first prompt I want you to be thinking about is, what are their prominent physical features? The things that when other characters introduce them to other people, when they talk about them behind their back, what are the physical characteristics that they're pulling from? What's the first thing people notice about them? Do they have a center tooth like Tom Cruise? By the way, did you know that Tom Cruise has a center tooth? Do they have a twice broken nose? Do they have prominent freckles? Where are the freckles? Do they have a mole somewhere significant? Do they have a particularly large nose that maybe is out of proportion with the rest of their features? This is the level of specificity that's going to take your characters from just a person with brown hair and blue eyes to a complete human being. Staying on the physical characteristics train, did you know that you have 5 senses? And oftentimes we are really only thinking visually when we are thinking about our characters. So let's turn to scent, something that the romance genre in particular has always been very good at, but is worth considering regardless of genre that you're writing in. What does your character smell like? What is their under musk? All right, well, I didn't like that either, so I apologize. But what is sort of their base scent? What do they smell like when they're not using any products? What does it tell us about their day-to-day? Are they a barista and so they always smell like old coffee grounds and, curdled milk? Are they someone who loves the outdoors? They always smell like fresh cut grass and, damp soil. But also, what are the products they use? What scents do they favor? Do they use their grandmother's Chanel No. 5 scent, even though it's wildly anachronistic for kind of their day-to-day life? Do they have medicinal lotion that they're always putting on, and so that carries a particular scent with it? The goal here is, again, to get really specific and find new opportunities to tell us something about your character just based on the way that they appear in the world. Your character's background is obviously a pretty broad spectrum of things that, for one reason or another, you're probably going to want to dig deep into. So we're going to do 3 prompts from this section. Prompt number 1 is your character's parents. Do they know their parents? Are their parents still together? Or were they ever? If there was a divorce or a breakup of some kind, who did the character side with? Who were they closer to before and then after the split, especially if it differs? Even if they're still together, who are they closest to and why? If they don't know their parents, who did they kind of latch on to like a lost duckling and look to for parental guidance? Who in their life was filling that role, if anyone? An older sibling, a mentor figure, a boss, a more distant family member. Next up, think about clicks. So whether or not you're writing in a contemporary format or otherwise, probably there was some level of schooling or education that your character dealt with, and there are social components to educational institutions. Where did they fall in that hierarchy? Were they a jock or a nerd? Were they a skater kid or a popular kid? Were they a burnout or a drifter? Did they, scoot under the radar? And was that on purpose or not? And whatever external categorization you kind of come up with for them, was that a true and honest descriptor of who they were at that time? Or was that merely a useful presentation for them to give off because of something else they had going on? Finally, firsts tend to be important moments in your characters' lives. So I want you to think about their first rejection or failure. Be this a rejection by a crush, or a failed test, or an attempted feat of prowess that just didn't go their way. What was that first thing that they can remember not being good at or not getting what they wanted? And what did they take away from that? What did they learn, correctly or incorrectly, about themselves or the world around them that probably shapes the way that they think in the present day? How did that failure define them, for better or worse? Next, we're going to think about the community around your character in present day. Specifically, I want to talk about their acquaintances, the people that they sort of regularly see in their day-to-day life. These are not necessarily the people that they feel emotionally closest to, but they are the people that they see most frequently. Who are these people? Who do they see on a day-to-day basis? And who perhaps do they wish they saw less of? And why can't they see less of this person? Is it because they're a neighbor, a coworker, etc.? Finally, we're going to talk about theme. This is the category of character prompts where we really get to the heart of what is this story about, and why is this character the right person to tell that story, to represent that theme? So one thing I really like to do for theme, and in particular how it intersects with character, is let the character spiral a little bit, because your character probably has some kind of assumption, maybe based on that first rejection we talked about a little bit earlier, maybe based on something else in their background that you've explored with them, but they have some kind of assumption, they have some kind of belief, be it false or true is sort of irrelevant here, and that is probably what is driving them to make decisions. That's probably where the stakes are coming from, at least the internal ones. So I want you to let this character totally spin out. What is the worst case scenario based on the thing that they are afraid of or the thing that they believe? In their mind, what is the worst possible thing that could happen to them that feels realistic and related to what's going on in the story? And why do they think that that's going to happen? Now, some of the spiraling might not be stuff that they're doing consciously on the page, at least not at first. A lot of times the things that we're afraid of or the things that motivate us are not things that we can easily articulate, but you as the writer do need to know, what is that sort of darkness lurking in the back of their brain that is certain that everything's going to be terrible? What does everything is going to be terrible look like for this character? And how might you use that to continue to push the stakes a little bit further and give us a really juicy, tense story that's going to be satisfying to resolve by the end? Caveat: you do not need to know the answers to all of these prompts or the prompts that we've got over on our paid subscriber tier on the Rogue MFA Substack right away. You don't need to know the answers at the onset of your writing journey. You might not even know them halfway through. However, I do find it really helpful, especially if I'm starting to get stuck somewhere, or I need to make a decision about something, or the character is at a crossroads in the outlining or drafting phase, to go back to my character outlines, not just to review what I've already come up with, but also to start answering some of the prompts that maybe I skipped at first because I wasn't sure yet. I didn't know this person that well, but at a certain point you're going to, and it might be helpful to consider, what was their first failure? I didn't think of it before, but now I'm at a point where maybe I should know that information, because it's probably going to inform the way that they make decisions at this point in the book. Point is, you don't have to do everything in order. You don't have to do everything to completion. You just need to imagine your people complexly so that you can build complex and interesting stories around them. And that's what this video is designed to help you with. In addition to, again, the longer version of this in article form over on our Substack, and additional prompts and considerations that are available exclusively for our paid subscribers. So definitely go check that out. And in the meantime, I'll see you soon.